Greetings. So I talked a little bit about Gottes Tod the other day, which was sort of my first encounter with Nietzsche. This, to a degree, was my second, the idea of the eternal return, eternal recurrence. And it was, again, in the context where I'm still being influenced a lot by Christianity. As I mentioned, whenever someone would say God is dead, I would be told, well, Nietzsche went crazy, so don't worry, God is still alive. And this kind of annoyed me as well, because people would tell me, Christians, that there's no point, even if Nietzsche is right. Like, what's the point of living your life as if God is dead, because you're just going to die and there'll be nothing for you. And maybe I never do or did understand eternal recurrence. But at the time, I'm still thinking, well, Nietzsche does have an answer for this, actually. And first we'll just read the passage. So, the heaviest burden. What if a demon crept after you into your loneliest loneliness some day or night and said to you, this life, as you live it at present, and have lived it, you must live it once more, and also immeasurable times, and there will be nothing new in it, but every pain, every joy, every thought, every sigh, and all the unspeakably small and great in thy life must come to you again, and all in the same series and sequence. Similarly, this spider, this moonlight, among the trees, similarly this moment, and I myself. So there we go. So the implication obviously is a demon. A demon is obviously in Christianity a wicked creature, a tormenting creature. But perhaps not in Nietzsche's conception, because he's obviously not a believer in the Christian God and the Christian values. So the heaviest burden. This again is written shortly before Zarathustra, where the question of the Übermensch comes up. And this is sort of the test of the Übermensch. We'll read this first just in an existential way. What does it mean for your life if you are a yes-sayer? If you say yes to this idea that you have to live again and again? It's very important, because I'm often asked people, just because I've been thinking about this for almost 20 years, I ask people, would you change anything about your past? And almost everyone says, of course I would. There are things I wouldn't have wanted to do. And I always get asked in response, and I sort of have to say, no. Because that would be to change who I am. That would be to alienate myself from myself. And obviously there are things you can do going forward, but the question is always asked in the present about your past. So you always have to re-ask the question. As you know, of course, it's also not asked in a casual conversation like I usually do. It's asked in the loneliest, most painful moment of your life. And I am not going to pretend I could answer yes in that moment. I can't. In those moments, I probably wouldn't even want to read. So I can't say yes, but in an existential way, I do look back on those loneliest, saddest moments, and I have to say that I am who I am because of them. So let's move on. The eternal sandglass of existence will ever be turned once more, and you with it, you speck of dust. Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon that so spoke? Again, we're getting a little bit into sort of cosmology, but not quite. It's still more of a question of what would you do? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment in which you would answer him, You are a god, and never did I hear anything so divine. This is somewhat of a break. Experienced a tremendous moment, but the moment is supposed to be in our loneliest loneliness. So we're shifting a little bit here. If that thought acquired power over you, as you are, it would transform you. So changing you, again, not something that you might think in the idea of a thought experiment. The thought is changing you. But again, the question largely sits in the present about the past. It's changing you into the future. And evolution, obviously, this idea of the Übermensch. I want to talk about the Übermensch later. I'm not going to overcomplicate it here. But the idea of moving forward to something more than what you are is embedded in this riddle about the past. That thought acquired transform you and perhaps crush you. Question with regard to all and everything. Do you want this once more, and also for innumerable times? Would lie as the heaviest burden upon your activity. So again, into the future. Or how would you have to become favorably inclined to yourself and to life, so as to long for nothing more ardently than for this last eternal sanctioning and sealing? In other words, you live your life so perfectly, you're so happy with it, that you long to live it forever. Now, I want to say, in a cosmological sense, in the way that Nietzsche understood time, we still don't really understand it any better than he did, but 1882, 83, when he's writing this, is that time, it's interesting because he says it's a recurrence. It's a recurrence in this, but in a sense, in his cosmology, which he doesn't complete, but he's said to have worked on, time is actually linear, but it's linear in a eternal way. It's always moving forward, but as it moves through the universe, the universe is limited. There's only so much matter. Time is not matter in his conception of the world. So there has to be a constant reformation, because over the billions, trillions of years that time is going to have, you are literally going to live this life. I'm going to live the life where I woke up this morning and I made this video. I'm going to live my life as I woke up this morning and I decided to talk about, Zarathustra or Beyond Good and Evil instead of the gay science. I'm going to live my life, whereas instead of having a glass of water, I have a cup of coffee. So you see how there's going to be the slightest difference. I'm not into this multiverse or whatever, but this is how time is going to unfold over billions, trillions, almost basically an infinite period of time, because there's no conception that the universe or time are going to intersect. Maybe we understand this better, but we still don't quite understand time. We're going to get to that later, but for Nietzsche, we can just look at this as an existential question. A question of, can you love yourself in every moment of your life? And what does it mean not to love yourself? What does it mean to have regrets? How can this help you move on? And I think it's a very helpful thing, and I think about it a lot. I won't pretend I understand it, but it has helped me. It's helped me, and that's what's important. That's why we do philosophy.